Yes, yes. Well, I have been pulled into a couple organizations recently to talk about conflict because conflict is normal and it happens all the time. And I'm actually not a big person for conflict. Personally, I like to avoid it when I can, and yet I've had to learn a lot about conflict in my work with organizations, my work with family businesses, and in my own marriage. I've had a great testing ground to get better at conflict. So I, in my marriage, yes, conflict in marriage. And what I've come to see is, hey, there's a healthy conflict, but there's also unhealthy and unhelpful conflict. And so that was a topic I thought would be great to spend a few minutes on talking through. Yeah, yes. So and it might be easy just for me to talk about what we don't want to do and what we do want to do. And so a big problem that I see so often is that people initiate conflict or confrontation via text, email, or some kind of Teams messaging. And this is a huge no-no. We cannot put emotionally charged material in an email or a text, some kind of message. And we've all done it, we've all received them, but this is a rule that we all really need to take to heart because so much gets lost in a text or an email. And I know you've got your phone, you think, well, let me just get this done and get it through and move through my day, but it's unhelpful. It's very unhelpful. Text, email, these things are good for details. They're good for things that are black and white that we want a record of. But once we start bringing up issues that are nuanced and things that have emotions to them, text messaging is a terrible process, and so much goes wrong because we do that. And so, what should we do instead? Face to face. Pick up the phone, have a conversation. I know it, for those of you who've got a million things to do, you just want to knock them out quickly. It will be hard for you, but it is a time saver because once you start a situation off poorly, I promise you, it will take much more time. So do yourself a favor, be efficient, pick up the phone, set up a meeting for face to face. Avoid bringing up things, conflict, confrontation in a text or email. So that's the first big rule. The second big rule I see where conflict becomes unhelpful is when we come and hit a person out of nowhere. I call it we just drop a bomb. And this can happen in lots of ways. Your supervisor has an open door policy, so you come in and he said, "Hey, it's fine to come in when the door is open," and you drop a bomb. This happens a lot, by the way, in marriage. I was reflecting a conversation that went badly. I'm in bed, I'm about to sleep, fall asleep, and my wife hits me with something, and it's like, oh, this is the wrong time. Like this is not going to go well. And so we want to avoid and again, we think we're being efficient and just tackling problems head on, but when we hit someone with something out of nowhere, we can't expect that they're going to be thoughtful in their response. Um, so often people think they have a good open door policy, but they're not present. They're not going to be able to see you clearly, see the problem clearly. And so my second piece of advice, don't drop bombs. Instead, schedule meetings and have an agenda. I hate it when I hear people talking about well, I'm on Tuesday, I'm meeting with my boss, and I have no idea what the meeting's about. Or a colleague said, "Hey, can I get some time on your calendar?" But didn't explicitly clarify what the issue was. And often these meetings where we don't know the background or the agenda, oftentimes they are positive. Hey, we're just revamping the compensation structure, and we just wanted you to know you're going to get a bonus, but that's not how we feel about them. When we see people have gotten time on our calendar, or they sent us an invite like, "Hey, come by my office at the end of the day today," we'll sit there and spin all kinds of fears out. We'll think, "Hey, what did we do wrong? Am I going to get fired?" You know. And so please include, even if it's just a sentence, a word about the topic you want to address. Let people know an agenda. And I think it's best to say something like, "Tom, love to get on your calendar. I want to talk about the budget. I have some concerns. When's a good time for you this week?" Simple, clear statement of what the agenda item will be. It will really, you're going to get the best of people when you do that. We get the worst out of people when we just drop things on them. Um, it, we need time to think and rehearse. Oh, yeah, the budget. There is problems with the budget. I agree. Um, and so it makes sense that you're coming to me with a concern. We set ourselves up for success when we schedule these conflicts with an agenda and people can think about the issue. All right. Third problem, triangulation. So, my trainings in counseling, psychology, triangulation is a nice fancy word for when we back channel, we go behind people's back. We're talking about the problem with everybody but the person we have the problem with. And this happens on teams a lot. We have a problem with Jim, and so I'm talking with Jane about all the problems I have with Jim. Or I have a problem with Peter. Instead of going directly to Peter, I'm talking with other team members about it. And it's very inefficient. We teams do this, people do this all the time. And you know, I think there is a place for, "Hey, I'm so frustrated with Jeff. Do you have some advice you could give me on how to deal with him?" Or does my frustration make sense? Can you help me think through it so I can bring it to Jeff in a way that's respectful? That's helpful. But unfortunately, when we go to someone else about another person, it just degenerates into gossip and backbiting and unhelpful teaming up against the other person. And I guess as a general rule, if you go to someone else with a problem about, let's say, Jeff, if the outcome is for you now to go back to Jeff, then this was probably a good move. But if it's just to complain and be frustrated and get validation, I don't think that's helpful. Teams need direct conversations. They need direct conversation. It really drains the energy from the team when there's all these side back channel conversations going on, and we're not dealing with conflict head on. And so that's my third. Don't triangulate. Go directly to the person. Does that make sense? Good. Well, I've got one more thing. I've got a couple more things. Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Um, the fourth thing I want to say is that um, when we're talking about an issue, and like you and I, if we're talking about an issue, okay, um, it really helps if we can assume good intent on the other person. Conflicts really become explosive when we think about the other person and we assume a lot of bad intent. Like, oh, Tom is just selfish and he's only worried about his team, or Mary is just trying to make me look bad, or Jeff doesn't value me. And this is normal to start creating stories, start telling yourself stories when you're in conflict with someone. But I want to encourage you to shut those stories down inside and to try to assume positive intent. Positive intent is something like, they're for me. They're just wanting to meet our clients' needs. They're trying to make the product in the best way they know how, or they're working from a good place. So that positive intent is where you assume, you give the person the benefit of the doubt and assume positive intent on their side. Okay? And when we do that, it really can help start the conversation off in a good way. Now, you might say to me, Dennis, hey, but I have evidence that Jeff is all about himself, or that Mary isn't really for me, that she actually doesn't like me. And I say, okay, I hear you. Well, let's start with curiosity. When we're confronting a difficult situation, try to, as best you can, hold back on your assumptions, and let's start with curiosity. And so you're going to start with, Jeff, I want to remind you, you said these things, about me in the meeting, and I'm curious what your intentions were about that. I kind of have my own interpretations of that, but I wanted to give you a chance to tell me what you meant by those things you said in the meeting. So I'm not asking you to pretend like the other person's a saint when they said things that were hurtful, but I want you to give them a chance. I want you to be curious about where they're coming from and just see, because maybe it's being humble. It's admitting that we're not God. We can't read people's minds. We don't know where people are going from. And so when we start from that position of curiosity, when we give people the benefit of the doubt, it really creates a space where we can solve complex problems and come at it with nuance. And yeah, maybe Jeff has some things to apologize, but maybe you misunderstood him, or maybe he was trying to address something and it just came out the wrong way. That position of curiosity gives the other person a chance to correct the stories that you're telling yourself, to let them know where you're coming from. And so here's the big thing I want to end with, and unless Brandon has some things to add, is healthy teams have conflict. We can feel like, oh, this team isn't doing well because there's conflict, but healthy teams should have conflict. If we're passionate about what we're doing, if we believe in the mission, if we feel strongly, which is what you want about this product, about this organization, about where we're moving, then you should expect conflict, because we're all different. We have different strengths, different gifts, different ideas about how to solve the big problems that we're solving. And so healthy teams invite conflict. They encourage it, because conflict is what makes for the best outcomes. It means that everybody is engaged. Everybody is desiring the best outcome and wants to contribute. A team that doesn't have conflict is actually a bad sign. It's a sign that people are disengaged. It's a sign that people don't care. It's a sign that people don't have trust that their ideas, their what they have to offer is being valued. So I want to challenge you. If your team is low on conflict, you need to look at this. It could be a sign of some real problems with trust. Teams that have high trust have meaningful, healthy, lively conflict. Teams with low trust don't even bother because they know this isn't a place where I'm really welcome, that my ideas are wanted. So so that's maybe a shift. I know I always feel great when there's not conflict, but we got to push against that intuition that, oh, this is great. No one has a problem with the issues. And so anyways, those are some ideas I have about conflict. Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. Hmm. Yeah, yes, yes. Good, good. Yeah, and it's hard. Um, our mind naturally creates stories, and we take the information we have and the data points, and we start crafting a story that we put on a situation. And we can't help that. That's natural. And so we just have to be aware that what is the energy we're bringing to our stories? Is it one of positive intent? Or are we building a case for why that person is wrong and I'm right? And this is natural, but we have to fight against that. Curiosity is the antidote. Assuming positive intent, that people's heart are in the right place and that we're all trying to solve a problem. And I really think that I've heard Brene Brown talk about this, and I really think that that's the right way to go. And yes, people do have negative intents in their heart, and that's sad. But I think that in general in life, we're going to be better served if we come assuming the best in others. And I think Lincoln talked about this, President Abraham Lincoln, that he talked about our better angels. Let's all aspire to be these better versions of ourselves and assume that in others. And it just sets a tone for the interaction that puts it on the right foot. And so, yeah, 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 good. Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.